right? That's an adverse drug reaction. It's not so severe, it's not going to kill you, right? Oh, but for the relief, I am going to take that drug, experience acidity, and to relieve that, I'm going to take another drug, right? So what we are doing, or what allopathy is doing, is not really solving the problem. What it is doing is, it is just relieving you from symptoms. Now, I'm not again saying that allopathy is a wrong system of medicine or a bad system of medicine. It's just a different system of medicine. It has its own uses, right? Particularly in acute therapies, right? Acute therapies means like infections, for example, and pain relief, right? These are some of the acute areas where you would allopathy does play an important role, and it is probably more effective. Some of these drugs are quite effective, but if we have to think about what the basic difference between Ayurvedic system of medicine and allopathic system of medicine is, Ayurvedic system of medicine is much more root cause oriented. You may have a headache and the next person may have a headache next to them, but the reasons for the headache may be completely different, and so you are not going to prescribe like an allopathic doctor. You are not going to prescribe just paracetamol to both of them. You are going to prescribe different medicines to both of them, right? So that is the beauty of Ayurveda, or rather, that is the knowledge which is being passed down to us in so many of these samhitas and so many of these ancient texts. Now, but all of this is great. Ayurveda is very ancient. We should be proud of it as Indians, and it's a very good system of medicine. But at the end of the day, as young students, what you will be thinking about is, what after 5 years? And a lot of parents also, what after 5 years, right? They still have to make money. They have to survive. They have to, be independent, right? So what about that? Is Ayurveda sustainable source of livelihood, or let them become doctors and let them choose later on? I would like to say that Ayurveda can, and not only can, it probably will be a better way of practicing medicine. Now I'll give you an example, right? Why? I just don't want to say, and because I'm saying you believe it, right? It should not be like that. Now you should question. Unfortunately, again, in our academic systems, we are never encouraged to question. Okay, let me ask you a question. How many of you have heard about artificial intelligence? Just a show of hands, right? Yeah, artificial intelligence. A lot of you have heard. For those of you who have not heard artificial intelligence, it's basically computers are being programmed to mimic intelligent behavior, right? Now imagine 5-10 years down the line, when artificial intelligence will become more mainstream than it is right now, okay? Do you think that medical science is going to be not a subject that will not be touched by artificial intelligence? It is obviously going to be touched. Tomorrow's artificial intelligence is going to be better at diagnosing problems and better at giving solutions or recommending drugs, right, than a doctor. Because it will be trained to do that. It will be given inputs of millions and millions of patients, and their symptoms and what treatment was given, what were the clinical outcomes, and all of this. Now, a doctor will not be able to read and process thousands of research publications that are coming out, lots of clinical data that is coming out. For example, we all understand clinical data, right? We are talking about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 COVID vaccines. A lot of awareness has come about this clinical data. Now, I can feed all of this into this artificial intelligence or this computer, and now it has data of thousands and thousands of patients, and it has data of thousands of clinical outcomes. And that, based on that, it will be in a better position to predict whether to give X drug or Y drug for a particular patient, right? Tomorrow, it is going to be more of that sort of medication. Maybe not 10 years down the line, but 20 years down the line. Can you imagine what is the role of You will probably just open up your smartphone and say, you know, look boss, I have these symptoms. You already have my DNA data with you. You have my past history, medical record already into the system. And then you will say, hey look, I have got, you know, so and so problem. Your phone may be the one that will tell you tomorrow that, hey, you know, I think this is your diagnosis. I recommend you take this medicine, and maybe it will order that medicine for you also online while you're at it. Right? So is that going to be, do you think, you envision that as a future? I mean seriously, come on, show of hands. Let me know, you guys are all sleeping probably. Show of hands. Do you think this is possible? Possible, I'm not saying it will happen. Do you think it's possible? Yeah? Okay. So what is going to happen after that? So tomorrow, allopathic doctor will just be like a rubber stamp. He will also probably be using the same artificial intelligence to give you medicine. Right? So only then what they will do is, at the end of the day, the government, to protect, you know, livelihoods and so on and so forth, they will say, even though your phone can tell you your diagnosis better, it can recommend you what drugs to take, you know, but we want some person to, you know, certify that. Why? Oh, because machine can make an error, as if people don't make errors. Do you think that machine will make errors more than the person will? Probably not. You will probably trust the machine. If he gives you something else that the machine is not saying, you will question the doctor and say, boss, my machine is saying this. Correct? This is likely to happen. Even today, when you go to doctor's chambers, a lot of doctors get irritated, because before we go to the doctor's chambers, we have done our Google search. Okay, I'm having this, and then we go and ask those questions. Doctor, I've read this, you know. And then they get irritated. It's like, अरे हम क्या पागल है क्या इतने साल पढ़ाई करके, you know, I'm telling you this, you better believe it, right? So this kind of, you know, already we are seeing this problem with doctors because we have access to information. Tomorrow, not just us, the computers, the machines, the artificial intelligence will have access to all the information and more that even a single person in his lifetime cannot process. That much information it will process and learn and come up with what should be the line of treatment. Right? So, okay, you will say, maybe I'll be dead by then. Who knows? Who cares? Right? But it's not necessary that it may happen much faster also. Huh? So don't count on the fact that it may take for years together, and you know, I'll be done with my livelihood or my practice or other things like that. And so it may happen much faster, it may happen much sooner. Now here is where you as Ayurvedic students have an edge over conventional medicine, because even though you may tomorrow try to program Ayurvedic system of medicine through artificial intelligence, I think it's a lot more difficult. Why? I'll tell you. For example, one estimate that I have heard or read about is that there are more than 3 lakh different formulations in Ayurveda which have already been recorded, meaning they have been published, reported and other things. And then the ones that are not recorded are, which are being passed through generations of, you know, through oral traditions, those are again separate. Right? Now, the second thing is that Ayurvedic, the clinical outcomes of Ayurveda are unfortunately, I am saying unfortunately, not documented the way the Western clinical data is documented and reported. A lot of Ayurvedic research or clinical outcomes are not published. That's a very unfortunate thing, because that improves credibility. Now, why it improves credibility is because we are told that improves credibility. Did anybody question? Now, I'll give you another anecdote. Okay, we are now in this COVID phase and we are talking about all these vaccines. We read about all these. Oh, this vaccine has that much efficacy. That vaccine has that much efficacy, and so on and so forth. Right? So the Western companies like Pfizer, they tried to launch their medicine in India. Okay. The Indian government did not approve it for emergency use, but they approved 2 other vaccines, which are, one is an international company, Discovery, but manufactured in India, which is Covishield. We know about it, Serum Institute, right? The other is manufactured by another Indian company called Bharat Biotech, called Covaxin. बराबर है. Now, latest, just 2-3 days ago, the clinical data phase 3 trials of Covaxin, which is the Bharat Biotech's clinical trials, were released. They claimed 81% efficacy, and in fact they claimed it is better suited to for fighting against newer strains of coronavirus that is coming out, right? Now, so they were approved. Now already vaccination has started and everything. Everybody knows that. Now I'll tell you the story about Pfizer, right? So Pfizer is this biggest pharma company. How many of you have heard about Pfizer before? Everybody, almost everybody has heard. It is the largest pharmaceutical company in the world. They came up with the first vaccine that was approved in the UK, right? It needs to be stored at -70 and all that is the story we know, we've read it in. Now why it was not approved by India? Because what India said, you have clinical data based on your population, which is of a different genetic makeup than our local population, right? Now what Pfizer said, look, our data is superior, okay? We have done so many trials and so on and so forth. You have to accept it based on that. The government said, no, if you want your vaccine to be accepted, you perform the clinical trials in India and prove that your vaccine is equally efficacious, right? Then Pfizer, in a tantrum, they said, we don't care, we are not going to supply, we are withdrawing our application, right? Now, this is, what do you make of this story? What do you think? Can somebody just tell me, what do you think about this story? Even the parents also, I mean, it will be nice to hear somebody's voice while we are at it. I'll tell. Anybody wants to volunteer? Anu?
Basically, Western countries think they are superior than particularly in Indian continent.
What he said was, Western countries or companies or whatever, they think they are much more superior to us, because they have been pushing that agenda for a long period of time. What I think about this story is, I'll tell you, it is about this whole supremacy kind of thing. So if the same data from India, if I take and go and apply in the US for a vaccine application, do you think they are going to approve?
No.
Why they will not approve? They'll say, "Arey yaar, your population is different, our population is different. You should do clinical studies here again." And why? Clinical studies in the US means more expensive, and our company may not be able to do so. We will also leave that market, right? So all these things, I mean, clinical trials to be done, it's a good thing, it's a scientific methodology and all that, but you cannot just push, okay, we have done it. If we do clinical trials in the West, you should in India accept it, but if you do clinical trials in India, we in the West are not going to accept it. Indian company has done it, how can I accept it? Or this is the same kind of, degradation they have been showing to us. This is the latest example of it. And in similar vein, Ayurveda has always been dismissed by Western systems of medicine as inferior system of medicine. What do these, Indians know about medicine? How can they are all like, so old-fashioned or traditional or whatever? And this has been not done today. This has been done systematically for over last 300-400 years since the Western countries started coming and colonizing India, right? They have systematically brainwashed us to tell us that your system is inferior to our system. In fact, what they are doing now or facing problems now are major public health crises. Okay? Now, I won't go into much details, but a lot of countries, particularly in Europe and the US, has an alternative system of medicine to reduce the cost of public health. You can imagine in the West, and I'm sure all of you aspiring doctors would have known already, that doctors earn a lot of money in Europe and US and all this. ये तो सबको पता है ना? हाँ. तो because of this disparity in terms of the incomes and so on and so forth, healthcare costs in the West have increased to unsustainable levels. Okay, whether in the US it's a different problem of private insurance and so on and so forth. In Europe, mostly it is public health. Means most countries offer free healthcare services to their populations. Okay. Now with aging populations and so on and so forth, and allopathic treatments being so expensive, today it costs at least $1 billion in research before you can launch a drug. Now, do you think the pharma company is not going to recover that money from the patient? Obviously they are, right? So this kind of this business and health nexus that has happened is making all these healthcare systems unsustainable, particularly with chronic diseases. So look, what happens with chronic diseases? What are chronic diseases? The ones that
take time to get cured.
yes, the ones that are typically they continue for your lifetime. In a lot of these cases, there is no real even cure also. It is just giving symptoms reduction के लिए जो बोलते हैं, in your medical terms you know probably what is better term, but yeah, it just reduces the symptoms. Let's say diabetes, heart disease, and
renal failures.
renal failures is a very interesting example, and I have so many stories about it, but I won't talk about it today. The interesting thing is in chronic therapies, a lot of these chronic therapies, allopathy is their only cure is what? Okay, I am writing you this medicine, you take it for lifelong. Now, lifelong lena hai bole to the patient also has to pay. And in cases like Europe, the government also has to pay. Right? And you are paying forever. Do you think any company will come up with a cure for diabetes? There is no money in cure. Where is the money? So when you buy their product forever, for your entire life, that is where the money is. Am I interested to cure you there?
No.
Yeah. Have you heard about diabetes being reversed by Ayurvedic practitioners and by changing your lifestyle, suiting your lifestyle? Have you heard about these stories?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you ask your Western medicine guys and say, we have cure for diabetes, what do you think they are going to say? Impossible.
Impossible.
I don't believe it. This is all, bunkum, right? But it is possible, right? So Ayurveda has, a lot of future as far as chronic therapies are concerned. Now I want you guys to just leave today, or remember, if you have to remember something, is if you take up, as a specialization or as your practice tomorrow in Ayurveda, focusing on chronic therapies, I think you can definitely build a much more successful practice than your allopathic counterpart. Trust me on that. This is probably going to happen. Yeah. Another thing I'll give you is, like I said, all these Western countries are now opening up, hospitals and Ayurveda centers and so on and so forth, going forward, they're opening. Let's say how many countries are there in Europe? There are like 30, 40, odd countries. Each country opens 1 or 2 or 5, hospitals. US, such a large country, if they start opening up, in every state, they have 50 states. 1 hospital per state, right? So how many hospitals are we talking about in the next 10, 20, 30 years? We're talking about hundreds of hospitals in the West, only in the West, okay? We are not even talking about the rest of the world, Africa, India and other places like that. So when all of these institutions will start opening up, where do you think they are going to get their faculty? Where do you think they are going to get their first medicinal practitioners from?
India.
From here. Probably some of you will actually be going out abroad and practicing Ayurveda in those countries. But you can only do that if you continue practicing Ayurveda and develop a practice which you can prove that you are a good practitioner, and that is why a country in the West actually wants you to come and start their Ayurvedic practice over there. Right? That can only happen when you are committed to that cause. Right? So don't think about just the short term, aspect of this, as soon as I finish my BAMS, will I, start making the same amount of money as my allopathic counterpart. Don't look at it that way. If you spend 5 more years in developing your practice, you will probably get a better name and better, income levels than your allopathic counterpart. Because he will peak at certain point of time. If he is running a clinic, let's say an MBBS candidate is running a clinic, he will be able to see 20, 30, 40 patients per day, right? And that is a peak. That is, beyond that, there is no growth for them. But for your 20, 40 may come a little later. But once those come, those can be a much value added, client. You won't be just writing paracetamol to somebody who has come with fever and chills, right? So, I'm sure there is a lot of future ahead for Ayurveda. Don't think about it in short term, way. Look at it as a long term, passion, profession. Another thing I would like to just reiterate, one of the professors told me that the institution here also tries to emphasize or is emphasizing for you guys to learn or rather pay more attention on the granthas and not on just the content that is taught to you. Learn how to read it and how to apply it on your own, because whatever you are going to be taught in the next 4 or 5 years is not going to cover the entire literature that is available on Ayurveda. So at some point of time, you will have to go back to your books. You will have to go back to your other texts and other things like that to refer. Even in this case, what is recommended or done or not or whatever it is, right? So this is going to happen. So emphasize, try to learn how to read Ayurvedic literature so that you can use it in the future, right? So these are the few things that I wanted to address, and thank you for your time and patience in listening. Thank you.
Very well, sir.